Welcome to this Grand Canyon planning session. In this session, I'd like to do three things. First, provide an overview of Medallion Adventure Club. Second, provide a taste of the Grand Canyon visit options that anyone might explore. And third, provide an overview of the 2023 Grand Canyon trip plans that Medallion is considering. So although those are the three things we're going to do, what we'd really like to accomplish is to inspire you to put an adventure on your calendar. The underlying purpose of Medallion is to get people out exploring, trying new things. And certainly the Grand Canyon is a super place to visit, but there are many adventures that you might pursue and they can add to one's balance sheet of life. And that's our goal here, to kind of really reinforce the capability of getting out and enjoying these natural wonders we have. So the takeaway here is to encourage you to add an adventure and to explore. My name is Ron King. I'm a citizen adventurer. I've done a few hikes, a few in Grand Canyon and other places, and I'm a MAC co-founder. Also, a person who's helped create this slide presentation, not joining on this talk, but a friend and a fellow adventurer, Nick Eastridge. He really is an expert on the Grand Canyon. Here he's pictured in front of the canteen in Phantom Ranch. He's written two books on foot through the Grand Canyon, where he spent more than a month and a half hiking the entire length of the Grand Canyon. Under 50 people have done this. It's a very challenging and really remarkable event that he undertook to do that hike. And he's also written a book on the rock art of the esplanade in the Grand Canyon. So certainly an expert here, and also has helped other people who joined us on the trip last year. Don, Katerina, Lacey, Helga, Michael, and Armando all had input trying to make this presentation what it could be. 20 years ago, before I had hiked the Grand Canyon and really did much hiking at all, I had kind of strong but erroneous perceptions about the Grand Canyon. So one of my perceptions, I guess because of the popularity of people maybe extending their reach, people trying to do a big hike in the Grand Canyon and getting ill. And this here is a picture that is posted around the Grand Canyon. And sometimes people come to the Grand Canyon with the hope of getting down to the river and back up without being prepared for it. And again, it can get you in trouble. So this was one impression I had. The second was it was going to be quite a sketchy hike, potentially where you would have to be putting yourself at risk. This is a picture of me hiking later. Just to make it clear, we're not going to be hiking like this, and this looks a lot worse than it actually is. As a matter of fact, this kind of hiking for some can be quite enjoyable. And the other perception is that people see the Grand Canyon on mules, which is certainly a good way to do this. But really the best way, and I've looked at the Grand Canyon many ways, is to explore it by spending a few nights in the canyon. And it really builds character and social connections. It's an opportunity to discover what you're capable of. It's, I think, really an experience that everyone should consider. And this is a picture of our group heading down the South Kaibab last year. Before I get into this any further, I want to just read a quote from John Wesley Powell, who's an early explorer of the Grand Canyon. "The wonders of the Grand Canyon cannot be adequately represented in symbols of speech, nor by speech itself." And certainly I'm not going to do it justice, and nor will the pictures, but I think it's safe to say that it just instills awe in everyone who goes to visit it. So the agenda is shown here. I'm going to talk about, repeat the objectives. That the goal here is to get you to consider putting an adventure on the calendar. And this is one that we're planning. And most people who might listen to this aren't necessarily going to join us, but there are many other options for joining trips. Talk a little bit about Medallion and the two overlapping groups. Talk about the location of the Grand Canyon, some non-camping activities, some camping vendors, and we will include here the links to all our URLs in the show notes so you can follow the links to explore some of the recommended sites that we suggest you consider. Talk about our schedule, and our focus really in this talk will be on these things, our schedule and the trails. Introduce the geology, but we don't have time here to talk about geology or history and all of the other wonderful aspects of the Grand Canyon, maybe another video down the road. Highlight the online resources, talk a little bit about how to get permits and the dates we have, and then give a montage of the steps we used last year to get ready and some photos that give you a taste of what the Grand Canyon might be. We're not going to cover packing and training details. That'll be another video. So to start out with, what is Medallion Adventure Club? We can think of ourselves as a school, an unconventional school, that what our pedagogy is, that what our teaching mindset is active exploration. And so we use the word adventure. And the approach that we think is the underlying approach is that we all strive to be teachers and learners throughout life. And our focus is on kind of health span. So we try to be social, try to build our fitness, our mental capabilities, our wellness mindset. So this is really a sort of a school where we engage in activities to live the best life possible. And we're a nonprofit supported by the Medallion contributors. There are two elements to this. The first one is St. Louis centric. We call ourselves the Medallion Hiking, Adventure, and Books Club. It's a meetup club. It's a free thing, and it basically allows or permits or organizes hikes, rucking in Forest Park and other local parks. We have a books and beverages aspect, and we talk about adventure education, like this here video, and we socialize with ideas. So the idea of the Medallion Club is that, yes, we socialize, but with the idea of learning, of kind of expanding our horizon. And we've got a newsletter that you can find linked here. And this is the meetup group if you would like to join us. We would welcome all new people. It's a very easy club to join. It's free, and we do a variety of things and a little bit of something for everyone, we believe. The second part is the Medallion Adventure Club, where we engage in things beyond St. Louis. And this is where people contribute $50 a year as supporters. But this isn't something we should think of as a cheap way to go on trips. The idea is that people are asked to participate, to help others, and to support the overall mission of the Medallion Club. But one of the benefits for those who participate and support is this do-it-yourself travel. So we've done, this is our second year Medallion. We've done several Colorado Alpine weekends. We've got one coming up in September. We've got a planned bike across Missouri, a wellness retreat in St. Louis. Devil's Tower is scheduled for October, and the Grand Canyon is in November, which is what we'll talk about. And we've done this year a ski in Breckenridge. Some of us went for a hike in Mount Rainier and the Innsbruck camp that we participated in just last month. So again, the Adventure Club is where we try to go beyond just the local, but it is not a travel club per se. It's a club designed to promote travel, but for the bigger cause of helping one's overall lifespan and an appreciation of all the possibilities out there. If you're interested in learning more, we're having an information meeting. So for those who want to see what we're about, this is going to be held on July 13th. So let's switch to the Grand Canyon. Here's a map of the U.S. and the national parks. There are 63 national parks. And for those of us who live in or near St. Louis, the Gateway Arch used to be a memorial, a national memorial, but in 2018, it became a national park and changed from the Jefferson Expansion Memorial to the Gateway Arch. And you can see the different parks, many located in the west, Alaska has the biggest land area of parks, and there's some in Hawaii, but we're interested in the Grand Canyon. And you see this is in the northwest side of Arizona, so we blow that up. We see this circle area, and we're going to talk about this here. You see further down is Phoenix, and up here in Nevada, we've got Las Vegas. So let's look at that. There's a lot here, but our focus is going to be on the Grand Canyon, which is shown here in the pink. You see Grand Canyon NP National Park, and you see other pink areas. These are national parks. So up here we see Zion, Bryce Canyon, and up in Utah, there's a variety of national parks. But there are other colors. You see this orange. This is NM. This is a national monument. We see here Lake Mead is a national recreational area. So this is in yellow. So we see up in Glen Canyon. So these lands that are in color here are federally owned lands, except for the purple areas, which we see a big area here. This is the Navajo Nation. And here is, again, a Halupai Indian reservation that one has access to, but this is an area that has been set aside historically. The river that we're interested in is the Colorado, and on the west, it's bounded by the Hoover Dam and Lake Mead, and on the east by Glen Canyon and Lake Powell. And the river is not crossed. There's no bridge from the east, from Glen Canyon to the west at Hoover Dam. The only way to cross this, except by boat, is there are 2 footbridges near the Grand Canyon villages here, which we'll talk more about. So a quick set of facts. The river is about 277 miles long, on average 18 miles across, and it's a big area. So the pink area here, obviously worming its way along the river, is the size of Rhode Island, actually bigger than Rhode Island. And as I mentioned, there are other national parks closer in Utah: Zion, Bryce, Arches, Capitol Reef, and Canyonlands, all spectacular parks, certainly very meritorious places to visit. But as I mentioned, there are other designations for federal lands, the recreation areas, the monuments, national forests, and each of these designations gives more or less constraints on how people might use them. And I've put a link down here if you want to learn more about these different designations. So maybe just talking about things you might do beyond camping, and this is the National Park Service. There are ranger programs, guided tours, the Yavapai Museum. These are just some of the things you can do on the South Rim, on the area here at the Grand Canyon Village. But many people now are attracted to the Grand Canyon to do the rim to rim. We'll talk about the maps, but this is quite an athletic event. People come and try to challenge themselves, and the rim to rim to rim is about 21 miles, excuse me, rim to rim is 21, rim to rim to rim, so you go to the south, to the north, back to the south, depending upon the route you take, in the neighborhood of 45. There's lots of hiking here, lots of things, biking, photography, mule rides. I'm not going to go into these here. There's a link here that'll give you a taste of what's possible if you want to stay up on the rim rather than doing a hike. There are non-camping companies, vendors that have very good programs. The Conservancy is very educationally oriented. They give rim-based tours. Road Scholar, very reputable company. More appealing to, I think, the Grand Canyon Conservative, more maybe really serious people who want to learn a lot about a specific part of the canyon. The Road Scholar, I think, appeals to maybe a little more milder, elderly group that want to see this, but take a pretty chill approach to what they do. I mean, again, highly praise what they do, but they specialize in a particular target market. I did the rafting on the Colorado River with Arizona Raft Company. A super experience. Encourage that for those who are interested. And there's the Grand Canyon Skywalk, which would be a bit of a drive from the South Rim, from the Grand Canyon Village, but people enjoy going over and seeing what it feels like to step on glass over the top of the canyon. Some people find it really quite exhilarating. And helicopter tours. I think helicopter tours have a mixed reputation. Certainly people who do it enjoy it, but people who are in the area sometimes find the helicopters a bit annoying because they are quite loud. So in terms of camping, if you want to go camping, I've done a number of trips with Sierra Club, and I'll have the link in the show notes. For example, here's one that's coming up this year. It's a corridor classic, and we'll talk about what the corridor is. Rim to river to rim. So go from the South Rim to the Colorado River, back to the north, and you're going to do service, and it's 6 days where you'll be camping out, and that's they provide this for $1,600, which doesn't include transportation there or back, but it includes your food and your, I guess, guides while you're there, while you're helping work. When it says service, that means you do some hiking, but they also request your help to maybe do some trail repair or some other work in the canyon. Here's another one from Sierra Club. It's a backpacking trip in Kanab, which is in the northern rim. It's 7 days, $1,075. I've done this one. Again, very, very interesting experience. Great guides, like-minded people, highly recommend it. REI has ones that are a little more glam camping, 7 days in the Grand Canyon, where you go to the Phantom Ranch, rim to rim, and it's $4,800. So again, same kind of experience, but they treat you to a little higher quality of food and maybe a little bit more lush camping and eating options. The Rhodes Scholar, again, we talked about them. They appeal to a more elderly audience, but they do lead trips down. They take it easy and very, very enjoyable. Their pace is quite consumable. And the Grand Canyon Conservancy, they also lead trips down, and they are very focused on education, very highly regarded institution. You can see they have 5 days for $1,500. So this is just a taste of vendors who provide education and opportunity to get inside the canyon with a group that will really support your adventure. Our adventure in MAC, what we are is a do-it-yourself. So some sense there, I've gone on these guided tours, these led tours. Now, as I've done this a few times, I find it a little bit more active, more engaging, mind expanding to plan and to participate with others. So here's the trip that we're planning. It's in November, from Monday the 6th, where we'll arrive at the rim. Tuesday, we'll hike down. Wednesday, we'll come back out partially. And then Thursday, we hike out, and I will go through step by step. So basically, we have a 5-day planned trip. Certainly, people traveling long distances might want to spend an extra couple of days, maybe see some of the other sites in the area. Certainly, there's a lot to see there. So what I'd like to do now is introduce some labels that are given to trails, campgrounds, and points of interest, and then talk about the maps that relate to the corridor trails. The corridor trails include South Kaibab, Bright Angel, and North Kaibab. And the word Kaibab is a Paiute name that apparently means something mountain lying down. And so this is a label you'll see often in the Grand Canyon Kaibab. And we'll talk about both the South Kaibab and the North and the Bright Angels. So these are the primary trails that in combination make up the corridor trails. We're going to talk about the campgrounds. We've got the Bright Angel, so Bright Angel Trail and Bright Angel Campground. And then the Havasupai Garden is a second campground we're going to get to know. And the Phantom Ranch is a point of interest. So let me introduce some maps. There are two ways to project these maps. One is a cross-sectional one where you can see the geology, and one is an aerial. So let's take a look. This is a cross-section where you can see here that the river is sort of in the bottom center here. And the way this is a profile that we take a knife, we cut through the two rims, and we can see over on the left the north rim and the right the south rim. And we're going to use this to talk through our trip. But an alternative is to move up above and look down from the top. So here, point 1, this here would correspond to the South Kaibab, and the Bright Angel trailhead would correspond here to this point here. And number 9, the Bright Angel Trail would correspond to this point here, so across the river, but near the river. So these are two different ways to sort of visualize what we're going to do. Some people like one or the other, but I think they both have a very useful purpose. For those who like maps, you can buy a very detailed map from the National Geographic through Amazon or other places. It really is a nice thing to have. It gives you a sense of just the grandeur of the whole park. So I encourage you to consider that if you like maps. So let's use this cross section to look at what our plan is. So you can see this colored green, yellow, and red. This is prepared by the National Park Service, and green is the area they say that it's sort of safe for you on a day hike to come down to Uha Point and then go back up. If you get to the yellow, it's maybe a little more sketchy. And the red is they're recommending that you don't try this unless you've really prepared and planned for it, which we're going to do. So we're going to start on the South Kaibab Trail, and the elevation at that point is 7,200. And the first day we're going to hike down. We're going to go down this path here. This is the South Kaibab, and we're going to get down to the Bright Angel Campground, which is at 2,500 feet. So in this day, we're going to go 7 miles. So this path is roughly 7 miles, and decrease 4,780 feet. And really going downhill, although it seems easier because you don't need the cardiovascular effort, it's hard on your legs because you've got to keep braking. So as we prepare for it, we certainly want to build in our training to deal with that very long downhill. Many times when we visit the area here, Phantom Ranch near Bright Angel, you see people who walk down there and indicate with great emphasis how sore they are, and they're walking very gingerly because they just hadn't prepared. And the reality is getting down is one thing, one also has to get back out. So this is day 1. 7 miles takes us for our group, because we'll stop for pictures and enjoy the trip. Probably 7 hours is probably a pretty good guess for the time we'll spend on that first trail. People want to do the rim to rim, could do another 14 miles from Bright Angel to North Kaibab, is another 14 miles. And we're not doing this trail, the North Kaibab, on this trip, but really super. Down the road, we are planning to do a rim to rim, so we can do this whole inner canyon. So day 2, we wake up at Bright Angel, and really a wonderful campground. There's water there. Oh, I should mention that there are 2 restrooms on the way down. So no water on the way down South Kaibab, but there are 2 restrooms, and certainly at the campground there's potable water and pit toilets for us. On day 2, we leave Bright Angel maybe mid-morning, and we hike up to Havasupai Garden. It used to be called Indian Garden Campground. This is about a 5-mile hike, 1,300, a little misleading 1,300 because we're going up some and down some, but it's the mildest of the 3 days. But again, we could probably spend 6 to 7 hours there. Again, we're not in a big hurry to get from point A to point B. We're there really to experience the canyon. And then on day 3, we get up to Bright Angel Trailhead, which is up and out. and this is a 4.5-mile day, 3,000 feet. So this is a big day, but very manageable. Last year we did it, and I think it took us 7.5 hours roughly. It was challenging, but certainly one where you really felt that you were part of the whole experience. It's very meaningful. So what I'd like to do is contrast here. As you see the strata in the mountains, there is, these colors come from different type of rocks. I'm not going to go through this here, but one of the wonderful aspects of the Grand Canyon is just the geology. And you can see here under item 7, this is the red wall. You can see the red wall has certain conditions that when it erodes, it breaks off very, very vertically. And so you can see this, these areas up here, the red wall. I'm putting this here. Here would be the good spot. This is the red wall. And this is what makes hiking in the Grand Canyon so challenging, because we have these segments where there are very vertical areas and not many opportunities to break through it. So it's not like hiking in the Midwest where you can almost go anywhere because the landscape allows it. In the Grand Canyon, there's a restricted number of trails, and thus it does offer more challenge as you try to hike through the Grand Canyon. So one of the things you'll really enjoy as you go through is kind of appreciating the colors and the different aspects of the geology. Let's now look at the same travel plans, trip plans, but now using the aerial map. We're going to start here at South Kaibab. Again, this is the same trip, but just looking at it from a different point of view. We're going to go to Bright Angel, and I said there will be no water on this trail. We'll leave with maybe 2 or 3 quarts or 2 or 3 liters, but there will be 2 restrooms along this 7-mile hike. When we get down, we'll go to Phantom Ranch, which is just a half a mile away from the Bright Angel campground. Day 2, we'll leave from Phantom Ranch. We'll go to Havasupai Gardens. As we mentioned before, this is a 5-mile, 1,300-foot increase. Then in day 3, we'll hike out going to Bright Angel. And you can see Bright Angel's at 68 versus the 72 for the South Kaibab. So as we go from the left, which is east, to the right, the highest point is decreasing. And this, as we mentioned, from Havasupai Garden to Bright Angel Trailhead, 4.5 miles with a 3,000-foot increase. Again, a challenging day, and the entire part of the trail, Bright Angel Trail, is 9.5. So people who do the rim to river to rim, this is a very common path. You leave on South Kaibab, go to Phantom Ranch, and come back. It's about 17.5 miles. I've done that quite a few times. It's not an easy hike, but it's super fun for those who like a bit of a physical challenge. So this is simply a resource for you to find where you might learn more about the NSP, the National Park Service. So I'll provide those links to you. This video down South Kaibab and up Bright Angel, really good, walks you through the experience. What I'd like to do is talk about the permit process. You only need a permit if you're going to camp. So if you're just going to do a day hike, go down and come back up, it's not necessary. But the permit process in any national park is getting more complicated as the demand is going up. And what you need to do is submit a form like this. And you can see here, this form was submitted, and you have choice 1, choice 2, or additional choices. So you can put in for 3 choices. And my friend Nick Eastridge, who submitted this, said our first choice is to go in on November 10th and spend that night at Bright Angel Campground. The next night, go up to Havasupai Garden. And if we can't get this option, which is the 10th and 11th, the next weekend, we'd like to do the same thing, go to Bright Angel, then go to Havasupai. These are the 2, 1 and 2. Otherwise, we'd be open to any time between November 7th and 19th. So just this is a $202 fee because it's $10 per permit plus $12 per night times the number of people we have. and we requested here for 8 people. And we got the permit. And this is what a permit looks like. There are permits that you need to carry with you when you're in the canyon, and they do check. So it's very important to keep that with you. But just to put this on a intuitive scale. So Nick, when he applied, he said, choice 1, we'd like to go in on the 10th and the 11th. So we walk in on the 10th, spend a night. On the 11th, we spend a night at a different campground, and then we camp out. So we arrive, camp, hike out, and leave. If we can't get that one, then we would do it the next week. And then the third choice was any 2-night period within that, and that's what we got. So we've got the early part, the 6th and 7th, and the 7th, the 8th, and 9th. So that's the period we had. And again, when you apply for permits, you really are at their discretion. There's just so much demand that they use a lottery system. Sometimes you win the lottery, sometimes not. So again, here's our plan. We go in on the 6th. We go to the rim on the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. We are hiking and then head home on the 10th. We did this last year. It worked great. And here are the characterizations that I already walked through on the maps. So at this point, what we've done is talked about the schedule and trails. What I'd like to do is just go through some of the things we did that I think we used last year that we're going to try to replicate this year. The first is to join a group, put a date on a calendar. And really, this is what I'm trying to encourage people to do, whether it's the Grand Canyon, whether it's with MAC or Sierra Club or REI, put something on a calendar. That starts the process. And particularly when you have a group, there is this natural tendency to promote each other. Gear and food planning is really exciting. Some people find it a bit of a hassle, but when you get into the science and the art of it, it's really interesting, particularly when you do it with others. The important thing is get the priorities right. Strongly encourage you to get a backpack where you get its size, get boots, the right boots. And I'm a person who uses a lot of different boots and have preferences. You certainly want to try them out and break them in, and your sleep gear. These are all things that you want to get right. The element of training, we trained last year somewhat together, but getting a pacing partner really makes a big difference, makes it more fun, and it keeps you a bit more accountable. And definitely you want to do a dry run where you break in your boots, or certainly have your boots broken in, but you get all your gear, set up your tent, figure out who's going to carry what related to the kitchen gear, because you don't each need a stove, you don't each need cooking pans, you don't each need gas for the stove, coordinating that. And again, this is a part of the adventure. This is really a fun part, the anticipation, the planning. We had a blast doing that. This is a sign you'll see there at the Grand Canyon, and I put this here just because although this is going to be fun, you want to plan, because it is a place where there are risks. You want to be ready, so when you find yourself at the trailhead, you're in shape, you've got all your gear ready. And as it says, getting to the bottom is optional, getting to the top, that's mandatory. And it's so true. Packing is really an art, and there's a cartoon here. There's an old saying that says you pack your fears, meaning that if you're worried about things in a certain way, you might take too much food or too little food or the wrong clothes. So certainly when you have a group, you can pack so you have the right stuff. Clearly, we're going to encourage you to take along rain gear, but you're not likely to use it. But it's, again, the insurance policy. If it rains, you need rain gear. And in the Grand Canyon, the chances aren't real high that you'll have a need for it. But I've been carrying rain gear every trip to the Grand Canyon. Only use it once in a while, but when you need it, you definitely need it. Here is another sign that you can get from the viewfinder in the Grand Canyon. A couple of things of interest: the trail courtesy when you're going uphill, you have the right of way. And some people make this a point of contention, or if you don't step out of the way, if you're coming down and somebody's coming up, there's always this little tension, who gives the right of way? And the reality is the people coming down should give the right of way, but many times the people coming up are very tired and would prefer to give the right of way because they need to catch their breath, so they want to step aside. So you'll find it's a very interesting dynamic as you're hiking along the trail. Also talks about mules certainly have the right of way and always want to go off the trail and uphill. So you're not on the side. So in case you step badly, you'll fall off the edge. If a mule train is coming, step off the trail uphill. So if for some reason you trip or fall, you fall into the mountain, not off the mountain. And then these are other things, just naturally intuitive things, not making noise, taking out your trash and using the toilets to the extent you can on the trail. And just good advice, balance food and water. Make sure you restore your energy by timely eating, strategic eating, knowing when to get out of the sun. Basically, you want to be with someone who's going to help you accomplish that. And in here, you can see these are the maps we talked about. Here's the aerial map. So it shows it that direction. And then these vertical mapping, these section maps, you can see those also. And I think the Grand Canyon is very well posted, very thoughtfully designed trails and very good signage. So the other thing, continuing the montage of photos that we did, we coordinated air travel, which is cut our costs. We shared car rental. One thing about foods, you definitely want to be in the habit of eating the foods that you're used to, because you don't want to eat the wrong foods prior to going to the canyon, because certainly it's no place to have bathroom issues. Share room. This is what a room looks like in Maswick. The rooms can be relatively expensive or relatively cheap depending upon when you go. For those of you who are planning and visiting, try to get a room early because they do sell out sometimes. The backcountry office is a place where you can talk about your permit. I love the National Park Service rangers there. The whole park is really populated by people who want you to have a good experience, but they want you to be safe. So I really give a salute to the park rangers, very thoughtful public servants. And then make sure you, in preparation, do a gear check and get your first aid stuff right. Here's one of our participants last year who's a doctor who was walking through and giving us a tutorial on things we should remember and things we should bring. In the morning, you're going to go eat a good breakfast. You're going to be calorie deficit. You're going to be in a calorie deficit on the hike. So you certainly know encouragement to try to cut back on your diet. Bring plenty of food that you like. It's the kind of thing that you can't eat too much when you're hiking. Expect mules as you go down the trail. Get lots of photographs. Again, this is again one of our hikers last year next to O'Neill's Butte, which is a landmark that's just spectacular. Take strategic breaks. You see Katerina here taking a break, and she could really sit and enjoy and immerse herself in the experience and see and appreciate. There's just so much to see there. And again, we see just really wonderful opportunities. You do see here Uha Point. You can see the rocks, and there's quite a fall off here. If you take photos, not to be giving you too much to be concerned about, but most of the injuries and deaths in the Grand Canyon is when people are taking pictures, they back up or they don't pay attention and they fall off these ledges. So you certainly want to be careful when you're taking and posing for photographs. Here's the Black Bridge. You can see the Black Bridge has this lumber across it. This is so the mules will cross it. Coming up to the bridge, Armando is coming through. This is a bridge built, or a tunnel built to go from the South Kaibab Trail to the bridge, and then what he's doing is going across to the north side, so the Colorado River is below. And these are really amazing construction. This was built in 1928, and you can see the cables. You can imagine what it must have been like for people to bring those down, because of course there's no helicopters, no capabilities of bringing those down except by hand. Here's the canteen. It's been closed since COVID. Not clear if it's going to open up, but it's a wonderful place. It just has all the charm of a park that you would expect in the Grand Canyon. So this is the Phantom Ranch Canteen. This is our campground, and you can see Michael, Armando, and Don over here. And these containers here is where you put your food, not because of bears, but because of rodents like mice and squirrels and potentially starlings, birds, because when you have a campground, there's always some attraction to these rodents. And you can see some people set up their tent out here, and you can see we had 1, 2, 3, 4. Some people shared tents, and some used their own tent. Certainly opportunity to just see awesome views. But we spent a lot of time managing gear. You can see them here, sometimes arguing over how much water to carry or how best to carry water. This is the bridge called the Silver Bridge. This is west of the Black Bridge. And you can see here, they don't have the wood on the bottom. When they built this, they were hoping to use this for mule traffic, but the mules wouldn't cross this bridge because of, I guess, being able to see through. So all the mules have to go through the Black Bridge rather than the Silver Bridge. Here's Helga touching the Colorado River. I'm a big believer in that water is the lifeline of Mother Earth, and that all water is connected. So I encourage people when they come down to touch the water, and got a picture of her doing that, of everyone doing that, because I think it's symbolic. It's just a noble gesture to touch the water, which connects you to the entire water system of the world. Here's what a typical restroom, and this is just a sign, and signs are great. Pipe Creek Beach is where you see a lot of rafters landing. Here's our second camp. This is the Supai campgrounds. Again, big area, just beautiful. It's got a lean-to so we can do cooking if under the roof if there's rain. It was about last year in November, about low at 28 degrees. So to give you an idea, you can see the way we're dressed. This is Armando, that you need kind of wintry clothes because it's warmer on the bottom than on top. Could during the day get up to 60s, but at night get in the 20s. So it's just spectacular weather, really, if you're ready for it. You can see the switchbacks here. Those of you who are camping out east, most of the trails go straight up. Out west, you have these switchbacks. I think this is Devil's Corkscrew, and there's another group called Jacob's Ladder. And again, this makes hiking very easy. The trails are just super. See the wildlife. Here's a bighorn, and you see goats. Lots of different wildlife. Here we're coming through a tunnel. There's 2 tunnels on the top part of Bright Angel. When you see these, you're very enlightened or very happy because you've got just 1 more mile to go to get out. And here we're at the top, and we see Katerina at the trailhead, and Don. We have to carry the permit with us. So I have the tradition, whoever brings the most sparkle to the trip is awarded the permit, and Katerina has just a sparkling personality, just brought the trip to life. So as a kind of an honorific gesture, we gave her the permit, and hopefully she values that. So finally, this last picture, it really is wonderful to get together and have a meal and just revisit and put in permanent memory the time you had. And I really, really had a fabulous time with this group. And again, whatever you do, whether it's going to the Grand Canyon or doing a rafting trip or going to Acadia National Park, put these things on and build these memories. They really stay with you for life. They add to the balance sheet of life. So what did we do in this video? provided an overview of Medallion, gave a taste of the options, talked about our 2023 trip plans. We call it Medallion because everybody who joins as a supporting member, I provide this medallion, which is meant to be tangible. So you put it in your pocket and it just reminds you about your priorities, about doing things both for yourself and for others. So it's a tangible reminder. And you see the logo here. This is a cairn, which is a trail marker. So the symbolism here that, you know, kind of helps mark the trail. So what we did was discuss these things, but we hope to accomplish is just to inspire you to go out and put things on the calendar and start to enjoy these events, add an adventure, and add to your balance sheet of life. Again, my name is Ron King. I certainly enjoyed working with you on this. We will post this and have the show notes with the links for your use. If you have any questions, I can be reached at rking@worcester.edu, and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.